to weigh anchor and get moving, for we have a rendezvous with friends up north. We island hop, making only brief stops at exotic locations like Martinique, Antigua, Barts and St-Martin. But first, we find ourselves just north of St Lucia. It's very good to be sailing again after a week in Rodney Bay Marina. Wind in my hair, space, birds, and a new country coming up, Martinique. Well, new and old, we're back in France essentially. So it is actually part of France, not just like a separate kind of colony. So they use the euro, fly the French courtesy flag. If we were staying, we would anyway. And apparently the customs are quite French, so French bakeries and cheeses and all that sort of thing. But we are dashing up to the British Virgin Islands, so we're only going to be in Martinique just overnight, and probably tomorrow do an overnighter to Guadeloupe. Then after, on our way back down, after we caught up with friends in British Virgin Islands, we will spend a bit more time at these places, these islands. Another rainbow.
Double?
I would say another rainbow. We've seen so many. It's the land of rainbows.
Wait, look, that gannet. Look.
Yeah, and a gannet.
Over there on the southern coast of Martinique is Diamond Rock. Diamond Rock is where during the Napoleonic Wars in 1804, 20 English sailors and 4 cannons basically blockaded themselves on that rock and pelted French ships going past. It took the French 17 months to dislodge the English. The rumor is, or the legend is, that the French basically marooned little boats with casks of rum against the rock, and once the English got drunk, then they took the rock finally. So just off the southeastern point of Martinique, we're heading for Anse d'Arlet, a little bay and beautiful beach just around the corner. We've just heard from mates on INDIES that the bay is littered with little fishing buoys made of essentially just bottles, and so they've asked us to just watch out for them. Thanks guys.
Creatures. Trying to work out what they are. Or is it birds bobbing along?
That's birds.
Is that birds bobbing along? Oh yeah, there's lots of birds there. I thought it was people in kayaks. Nice work, Aiden. Very, very peaceful, lovely, easy sail, and I can hear one of my favourite sounds, which is the waves. I haven't heard that for a while.
amazing to think that it's been almost 2 months since I've dived into the water of the boat, and here it's like almost 29 degrees, beautiful, so it's about time. I'm going to go for a swim. Oh man, that is beautiful. That is just lovely. Oh. Yeah. Hello. Have you been in this water? This water is so beautiful. Oh, good stuff. Okay, I'll put you guys in.
Yeah, we got a good snorkel around the shallow over there.
I think I can handle a run punch. Yep.
Good morning, bonjour. We're in Martinique. First task for this morning is to go under the boat. So this will be the first time since we were hauled out in Las Palmas that we've actually had a chance to go under and probably wipe away. I'm imagining there's some green slime there that's built up along the hull. I hope that's all. But we do know right at the back of the boat here there's these weird kind of upside down mushroomy things that have attached to the back of the hull, and we noticed it in other boats in St Lucia. It's obviously a St Lucia special.
Have a good one.
Thanks guys, you too.
Enjoy.
See you soon.
See ya. It looked windy out there.
Sorry?
Looks like you'll have some good winds.
Yeah, it does. Looking good.
Quick sail.
Yeah.
By hand again.
this has surprisingly been a tough overnighter. You would have thought that after crossing the Atlantic over 20 days that just one overnight would be rather simple. But it's been a lot of trimming, a lot of taking reefs in and out, because every time we'd go between two islands the wind would pick up to 15 knots, then we'd have clouds producing 20 knots, and then we'd sneak in behind a island and the wind would drop to 10 knots. So all the time trimming, all the time reefing, which means that your sleeve is broken up. So we're both rather tired.
And to top it all off, Bill and I had a little mistake through the night. Normally we're pretty good at telling each other what we've done, but Bill put on the jib preventer to stop the self-tacking traveller from hitting against the side. And then sometime in the wee hours either Phil or I tightened the jib sheet, and that pulled the sheet off the block, sort of jammed it there and has broken the block. We've had to furl in the jib. We're then bobbing around at sort of 3.84 knots with a reefed main. The reason it's still in first reef is with the full main, just get this horrible pivot point weather helm without a head sail to balance the main. So after a while of that, with current against us and VMG of about 2.5, we've kept up the reefed main and we're motor sailing. It's a real shame. We've got 15, 16 knots of breeze, and ordinarily we'd have main and jib up and we'd be powering along at 6 knots or 7. Yeah, so this has not been my favourite crossing, but here's the thing, it is a Tuesday, there are other people chained to their desks and their computers, and here we are in a beautiful part of the world, so that's what I'm reminding myself. And no one got hurt as we had to fix what we'd done. It's okay.
We're making our way into Antigua's famous English harbour. This is where Lord Nelson had his hideaway and became a naval base from 1725. How many feet that is?
That
120.
This is very weird. There's a whole group of dogs that's just swimming past us.
I thought they were seals.
They're dogs. Seals are fast. These guys are doing the slow doggy paddle. Aiden, are you excited? Yeah.
Dad told me that the next time we're gonna deflate it is in Panama.
Cool. That means lots of tender motor for you.
Yeah.
Well, this is a beautiful spot and you can just make out Montserrat on the horizon. We're not going to Montserrat because the volcanic eruption so many years ago destroyed most of the productive agricultural land and also the good marinas, I guess, on the southern half of the island. So unfortunately there's not much in the way of anchorages left in what's left of the island's, I guess, populated areas in the north. Shame, would have been nice.
some very large sea urchins down here, and my foot still hasn't recovered from Croatia, so next time I'm bringing reef shoes. Check this out. We're right in the centre of English Harbour at Nelson's Dockyard, and this is UNESCO World Heritage because it's the only Georgian dockyard still working in the whole world. And the reason the English set up here was because it's a lovely protected harbour, and you can barely see this point from the sea, so it's a little secret hideaway.
Nowadays, English Harbour and Falmouth, right next door, are the centre of yachting in Antigua. And one thing I didn't know, would you believe, 25% of the GDP of Antigua comes from the yachting industry. That just blows my mind. I can't imagine any country in the world that's got as high a portion of its economy relying on yachting. Yeah, wow.
So Antigua's very, very lucky to have been spared Hurricane Irma and Maria because they hit the sister island of Barbuda. And yeah, so that would have totally wiped out this marine industry here. We were just speaking to someone yesterday about Venezuela, all the beautiful marinas there that no one goes to anymore. Our yachting insurance won't even cover us for going to Venezuela. So these marinas and all the people who work on these boats are very dependent on weather and on other things going on in the country. It'd be actually quite tough, I think, being in the yachting industry around here.
And why is it that the English yachts always have a disproportionately large flag? All the Aussie ones got a small flag off the back.
Oh, and the German ones.
And yeah, not the German ones, always have this huge flag, and that's the other Swedish ones. What's going on, guys? If you've got an idea, let us know, because as I said, Aussies, Kiwis, we tend to have quite small flags.
I like this cafe because I got to draw on the roof. That one.
Let's have a look.
So everybody having a birthday this year. That means everybody. I got that from my new book for my birthday. Smiley face from Sailing Yachts Tranquilo.
Morning.
Well, it's 6:30, we're making an early getaway because we've got to get to St. Kitts. It is about 60 nautical miles, almost due west.
Last night Phil and I discovered that the block we bought didn't fit at the front, the head sail, so we're a little bit nervous. We've taken the block off the clew of the sail and we're using that, but we're being very, very cautious, very conservative with it. We've got a furled head sail and I'm not even pushing the angles downwind, just nursing it along. So Phil and I are a little bit nervous about that, but apart from that, downwind, waves are going with us, we're surfing, things pretty good. I'm hand steering to save some power because on autopilot, Carla, as we call her, just moves around a lot, and Aiden's going to finish his movie tonight, so I'm having a hand steer.
So just approaching the passage between St. Kitts and Nevis called the Narrows. Now apparently most yachts don't use the passage because it's quite shallow, but it's quite clear how to navigate through it. So we're going to head north and then head southwest towards Booby Island in the middle of the passage, and then skirt through the passage. Incidentally, the highest point on Nevis is Cone Peak. It's almost 2 kilometres high. That's pretty impressive going straight out of the ocean.
We're in the middle of the passage now, and a little worryingly, the chart plotter says the depths are derived from old lead lines, so dropping lead lines every 50 metres or however many metres they did, and just to exercise extreme caution with the depth around here. So I've got one eye on where we're going and one eye on the depth here, which at the moment is 13 metres, so I'm happy with that.
But we are following exactly the advice of the pilot, which is to take a particular bearing, 198 true towards Booby Island, and then veer off and go through the passage. And second of all, I've got the sonar going just for extra precaution. Well, that's it. We've made it through the Narrows, the passage between St. Kitts and Nevis. Depth got as low as 7 metres, which was expected. That's exactly what the chart said. We're now just going to scoot around the southern end of St. Kitts and drop anchor for the night. Woohoo! Elle's putting up the quarantine flag because we haven't checked in yet, and to be fair, we're just dropping anchor for the night. So we're going to be within a 24-hour period of grace, and we're going to haul anchor early on tomorrow and head for either St. Bart or St-Martin. Well, I must say I'm quite relieved that our temporary fix on the jib self-tacker has worked so far. Let's see how she holds up. More closed hull, closer to the wind, but looking good so far.
Good morning. Blowy. Early morning getaway for St. Barts. Is it St. Barts or today St. Martin? St. Barts. From St. Kitts. And another morning, another rainbow. It's amazing. By the way, I love visiting all these countries. I'm looking forward to making more of a stop on the way back south. These are all mystical childhood fantasy places from watching the Olympics and seeing St. Kitts and Nevis and wondering where that was and what it was like, and now I know. It's fantastic sailing up the leeward side of these islands because you've got good wind and flat sea. So it's some of the time we've chosen to be on the leeward side when it's about the same distance on the windward side, but you would be nuts to go the windward side because then you get the Atlantic swell. So very, very, very nice sailing. I'd say this is some of the best sailing we've had in the entire Tranquilo journey. Get wet.
So I was going through a squall. I needed a shower anyway.
Yeah. We're now upwind, into the waves, into the wind. Pretty rough actually, now that we're out of the lee of the islands and we're in the channel between St Kitts and St Barts. Quite a lot of up on the waves and then slamming back down.
Looks like he's looking out for flying fish that jump out in front of Tranquilo. Smart bird. We're coming up to St Barts, which Columbus himself named after his second brother, Bartholomew. It was originally owned by the French, but then King Louis, something like the 14th, gave it away to the Swedish in 1784 for some vague rights to have a naval base in Gothenburg. Then the Swedish gave it up about 100 years later, or at least they sold it to the French for what sounds like quite a pretty penny. Anyway, in any case, it's a major yachting centre. It's mostly for super yachts, but in any case, we're heading into Gustavia, which by all intents and purposes sounds very Swedish. St. Barts is a bit like the Saint-Tropez of the Caribbean, Swiss shops, etc. I think everyone knows how much we like Saint-Tropez. It's also definitely still recovering from Irma. Still a few shops that are boarded up, windows broken, trees with the treetops missing.
Just to clarify, we didn't like Saint-Tropez at all, felt pretty snooty. So we're glad that this feels nothing at all like Saint-Tropez, even though it does have some Swiss shops. It feels pretty laid back and pretty sleepy for a Saturday afternoon.
And there's still a bit of the Swedish influence in some of the architecture. Mostly of some of the houses that I used to see in the back of Beyond in Sweden. You can also get a sense of the devastation made by Irma down in the harbour by the number of dismasted yachts. It's quite haunting. In fact, it gave Elle the creep so much that she wasn't really too certain also about the depths, etc., and wasn't too keen on grabbing a mooring buoy this close. Anyway, we're fine, but yeah, it's pretty creepy. Well, goodbye St. Barts, even briefly. We're off to St. Martin and just one step closer to the BVIs.
It's very strange. That one's called Titania. Sounds a bit too much like Titanic to me.
Why is that better?
Well, it's the Titanic sank. I don't know if there's any boats called Titanic these days.
So we're just off St. Martin, the Dutch side of the island, and we're not going to stop. It's by all accounts, and what the pilot says, it's essentially just full of casinos catering to the cruiser crowd. It's a bit like Las Vegas in the Caribbean, so we're going to give it a miss. We're heading across the French side, across on the northeastern side. They say that it was the French side of St-Martin that got hit harder by Irma. You can still see that some of the Dutch side also was mangled a bit. There's a few trees that have lost their tops. What's amazing is that the high rises and a lot of the other buildings look to be fairly unscathed.
I've just discovered we've crossed from Dutch to French Sint-Martin because on the chart it says Petit Basseterre, little lowland. So we are back in France. Buildings are a lot lower key than on the Dutch side.
We've just landed at Marigot on the French side of Saint-Martin, and as you can see already, just stepping onto the quay, you can see it's been hit quite hard by Irma. I guess that's what 400 km/h winds do. But there's still definitely some life in the town.
Aiden just met one of the locals. Orange one, green one. There's a huge green one there.
This is rather shocking. I've never seen anything like it. There's still places serving lunch, but the fact that the lights are still out, dinner's off the menu. But anyway, this French restaurant looks fantastic.
This one, I don't like. It's smoked potatoes. Christmas treat. I'm having salad with goat cheese. And our lovely French waiter and the food, it just feels like we are in France.
Well, we are in France technically, I mean geographically.
Well, technically but not geographically. Because there are palm trees over there. So it feels quite strange. But it is France. It's a domestic flight from here to Paris.
And with the Grand Mère, or crème de Grand Mère, yeah, it's fantastic.
Rum, of course.
Banana rum.
Well, actually, any time I think rum. I'm usually a non-drinker.
Good.
Well, we've made an early morning getaway from St-Martin, heading for the BVIs, because it's about 80-90 nautical miles. You're talking anywhere between 12 to 15 hours, depending on what the wind's doing. Forecast from Predict Wind is that it's going to be about 18 to 20, but we've got a few squalls coming through which both shoot it up. We just had a squall that gave us gusts up to 34 knots. Yeah, it was a bit of fun. And then it sucks it out and then dropped to 11 knots even. So yeah, anyway, it's a pretty good start, making good headway. Expecting to get in about 4 p.m.
Another morning, another rainbow. It's no ordinary morning, it's Christmas, so Merry Christmas. Yes, it does take us a little while to make these videos, and that's because we've swapped being chained to the computer for these amazing adventures. It wasn't your usual start to Christmas Day. I got up at 2 AM, saw Santa shimmying back up the mast, and we left St-Martin for BVI's. So this is our final leg up to BVI's to meet our friends. It's pretty stable, sort of 16 knots now. We're going gangbusters, 7.5 knots. A bit interesting earlier where it went from 10 to 26 knots in a squall right near the start in my